The crystal spires of the Zelthani Palace reached toward twin suns, their light casting rainbow patterns across marble floors. But in the eastern wing, where shadows lingered longest, lived the one they whispered about in hushed tones. Princess. Nira moved through empty corridors like a ghost, her footsteps echoing in chambers that had forgotten the sound of laughter. The accident had happened 12 years ago. A speeder crash that left jagged scars running from her left temple down to her collar, marking her as different in a society that prized physical perfection above all else. The healers had done what they could, but Zelthani medicine could not erase what their culture saw as divine punishment. Her own people believed the scars marked her as cursed, unfit for marriage, unworthy of love. The broken princess, they called her when they thought she could not hear. But Nira heard everything. In her lonely tower, every cruel whisper that drifted up from the courtyards below. Today felt different, though. Foreign ships had landed in the capital, bringing diplomats from Earth for the first trade negotiations in a century.
Ow.
Nira watched from her window as the strange bipedal creatures emerged, their skin pale compared to the violet-tinged Zelthani. One figure caught her attention. A tall man with dark hair who moved with quiet confidence through the welcoming ceremony. Later that evening, Nira walked her usual path through the moonflower garden, seeking solace among the silver blooms that opened only in darkness. She believed herself alone until a voice spoke from the shadows. "Beautiful flowers. They remind me of jasmine from my homeworld." Nira spun around, heart pounding. The human diplomat stood near the fountain, his strange blue eyes reflecting starlight. Up close, she could see the weathered lines around his eyes, the way his mouth curved in a gentle smile that held no pity. "You should not be here," she whispered, pulling her hood forward to hide her scars. "This garden is forbidden to outsiders." Marcus Kane, Earth's cultural liaison. "I was told the gardens were open to diplomatic guests." Stepped closer, and Nira noticed he did not look away when moonlight revealed the damaged side of her face. "You must be Princess Nira. I've heard much about you. Nothing good, I'm sure." Bitterness crept into her voice, despite her efforts to remain composed. Marcus tilted his head, studying her with curious intensity. "Actually, they said you were the most learned member of the royal family, that you speak 7 languages and have read every text in the palace library twice over." Nira blinked in surprise. In years of court gossip, no one had ever mentioned her education, only her appearance. "You speak strangely for a diplomat. How so?" "You focus on my mind, not my scars." Marcus moved to sit on the fountain's edge, maintaining respectful distance, but clearly not planning to leave. "Where I come from, scars tell stories of survival. They're marks of strength, not weakness. Your people sound very different from mine." Nira found herself drawn closer despite her instincts screaming to flee. "Different, yes, but not better. Or worse, just different." He gestured to the moonflowers around them. "These flowers hide during the day and only show their true beauty in darkness. Perhaps they understand something about timing that daylight flowers do not." The metaphor was not lost on Nira. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen by another being. The strange human spoke to her as if she were whole, valuable, worthy of conversation. The feeling terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. "I should return to my chambers," she said softly, but her feet remained planted. "Of course, but perhaps. Might I walk this garden again tomorrow evening?" The flowers seemed to bloom more brilliantly with an appreciative audience. Nira met his gaze, seeing invitation rather than pity in those alien blue eyes. "The flowers do enjoy attention," she agreed quietly. As she walked away, Nira felt something she had not experienced in over a decade. Hope flickered in her chest like a small flame in darkness, fragile but growing stronger with each step. Behind her, Marcus watched her graceful retreat, already knowing that tomorrow could not come soon enough. Breaking through walls the next evening found Nira pacing her chambers like a caged creature. She had spent the day telling herself that the human would not return, that his kindness had been mere diplomatic courtesy. Yet as the twin suns set, she found herself choosing her finest midnight blue gown, the one with sleeves that covered most of her scars. Marcus was waiting by the fountain when she arrived. studying the moonflowers with genuine interest. He wore simple earth clothing instead of formal diplomatic robes, making him seem less foreign and more approachable. "They really are remarkable," he said without turning around. "Do they bloom every night?" "Only when both moons are visible." Nira moved to stand beside him, maintaining careful distance. The Zelthani believe they hold the souls of star-crossed lovers, forever reaching toward light they can never fully touch. A romantic legend. "What do you believe?" The question caught her off guard. No one had asked for her opinion on anything. Beyond matters of protocol and years? "I think they bloom because darkness gives them purpose. In daylight they would be ordinary, but in shadow they become something magical." Marcus turned to face her fully, his expression thoughtful. "You speak as someone who understands the value of hidden beauty." Heat crept up Nira's neck. "I speak as someone who has had much time to observe flowers instead of people." By choice or circumstance? The directness of his question should have offended her, but instead Nira found herself answering honestly. "Circumstance. My people prefer their princesses unmarked and perfect. I am neither." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then rolled up his left sleeve. Nira gasped softly at the sight of burned scars covering his forearm, the skin twisted and discolored but clearly long-healed. "Shuttle crashed during my first diplomatic mission," he said matter-of-factly. "Spent 3 months in medical reconstruction. My supervisor suggested I request transfer to a desk position, said the scars might make other species uncomfortable. But you refused." "I decided that anyone too shallow to see past damaged skin wasn't worth my time or my planet's consideration." He lowered his sleeve, eyes never leaving her face. "Scars are proof we survived something that could have destroyed us, or evidence of our strength." Nira touched her temple unconsciously, feeling the raised ridges beneath her fingertips. "The Zelthani see them as evidence of divine displeasure. The Zelthani are wrong." Marcus spoke with such quiet conviction that Nira felt something crack open inside her chest. They walked deeper into the garden, past cascading waterfalls and glowing crystal formations. Marcus asked about her studies, her languages, her thoughts on interstellar trade agreements. He listened to her answers with focused attention, occasionally asking follow-up questions that showed he valued her intelligence. "Why are you being kind to me?" Nira finally asked as they paused beside a grove of singing trees, their crystalline leaves chiming softly in the night breeze. "Because you deserve kindness, because you're brilliant and thoughtful, and you've been treated badly by people who should have protected you." Marcus stepped closer, close enough that she could see golden flecks in his blue eyes. "And because when you smile, truly smile, it's the most beautiful thing I've seen on any world."
Oh.
Nira's breath caught. She wanted to step back, to protect herself from the inevitable disappointment when he realized what everyone else had already decided about her. Instead, she found herself moving closer. "You don't know me, Marcus Kane. You don't know what I've done, what I've failed to do. Then tell me." His voice was soft, encouraging. "I have time." Under the alien stars, surrounded by impossible flowers and gentle music from crystal trees, Nira began to speak. She told him about the accident, about the years of isolation, about dreams deferred and hope abandoned. Marcus listened without judgment, occasionally reaching out to brush away tears she didn't realize were falling when she finished. He took her scarred hand in both of his, raising it to his lips to press a gentle kiss to her palm. "Thank you for trusting me with your story," he whispered against her skin. Nira felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. And for once, she didn't try to rebuild them. 3 weeks passed in secret meetings that became the brightest points in Nira's existence. Marcus found excuses to extend the trade negotiations, claiming he needed more time to understand Zelthani culture. In reality, he needed more time with the remarkable woman who had captured his heart so completely. They met in hidden alcoves of the palace, forgotten gardens, in the ancient library where dust motes danced in colored light from stained glass windows. Marcus brought her books from Earth, and Nira shared Zelthani poetry that had never been translated into human languages. Their conversations ranged from philosophy to art to dreams. Neither had dared voice aloud. "On Earth, we have a saying." Marcus told her one night as they sat close together on a stone bench, studying star charts by lamplight. Love sees not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid, painted blind. Your Shakespeare understood something profound. Neera traced constellations with her finger, hyper-aware of Marcus's warmth beside her. Though I wonder if love requires sight at all, or if it comes from recognizing something familiar in another. Soul Marcus turned to study her profile in the golden lamplight, noting how the scars had become simply part of her beauty in his eyes. What do you see when you look at me? Safety, she answered immediately, then blushed at her honesty. Acceptance. Someone who sees me as whole instead of broken. He gathered courage to meet his gaze. What do you see in me? Everything, Marcus breathed, his hand rising to cup her undamaged cheek. Intelligence that rivals any scholar. Strength. That humbles warriors. Beauty that goes far deeper than skin. His thumb traced her cheekbone gently. I see the woman I've been waiting my whole life to find. The confession hung between them like a bridge. Neither was sure they dared cross. Neera leaned into his touch, years of loneliness and rejection warring, with the desperate need to believe in love. Marcus, she whispered, his name a prayer on her lips. He answered by lowering his head slowly, giving her time to pull away if she chose. Instead, Neera rose to meet him, their lips touching in a kiss soft as moonflower petals and sweet as crystal spring water. The first kiss of her life, tender and reverent and perfect. When they broke apart, both were trembling. I love you, Marcus. Said simply, as if the words were inevitable as sunrise. And I love you, Neera replied, the admission both terrifying and liberating. But their joy was short-lived. The next morning, palace guards dragged Marcus from his quarters and threw him before the Zelthani High Council. Neera was already there, flanked by armed escorts, her face pale but defiant. You dare corrupt our princess with your alien influence? Demanded Chancellor Vorth, his purple skin flushed darker with rage. You forget yourself, human? Forget nothing, Marcus replied coolly, his diplomatic training taking over. I've done nothing but treat Princess Neera with the respect she deserves. Respect? Another council member hissed. You've been seen embracing her, filling her head with impossible dreams. She was content in her solitude until you arrived. She was dying in her solitude, Marcus shot back, earning gasps from the assembled nobles. You've taken a brilliant, beautiful woman and convinced her she's worthless. That's not protection. It's cruelty. Chancellor Vorth's eyes blazed. You will cease this inappropriate relationship immediately, or face expulsion from Zelthani. Space. The princess will be relocated to the northern monastery, where she can contemplate her sins in proper isolation. No, Neera spoke for the first time, her voice ringing with newfound strength. I will not be hidden away again. You will do as the council commands, Vorth snapped. You are a burden to this empire, a reminder of weakness. Be grateful, we provide. For you at all. Marcus stepped forward protectively, but Neera raised her hand to stop him. For the first time in her life, she stood truly straight, her chin raised with royal pride. I am daughter of the Star Throne, blood of the ancient line. You may exile me, but you cannot break me. Her eyes found Marcus across the chamber. Not anymore. The message in her gaze was clear. Their love had already changed her, given her strength she never knew she possessed. Whatever came next, she would face it as a woman worthy of love, not as the broken princess they'd created. Love under fire, the monastery walls rose like prison bars against the violet sky, their ancient stones cold and unwelcoming. Neera had been locked in a cell-like chamber for 3 days, with only stale water and bitter grain paste for sustenance. The council had made their message clear: she would remain here, until she renounced her feelings for the human diplomat. But Marcus Kane was not the type of man to abandon someone he loved. On the 4th night, a soft tapping at her barred window made Neera's heart leap. She pressed her face against the narrow opening to find Marcus clinging to the exterior wall, his diplomatic immunity apparently extending to creative interpretations of restricted access. I'm getting you out of here, he whispered urgently. The guards will kill you if they find you, Neera protested, though her soul sang at seeing him again. Then we'd better be quiet. Marcus had already begun working on the window bars with some kind of molecular cutter. The trade negotiations are over. My ship leaves in 6 hours, with or without diplomatic approval. You can't, I can, and I will. The first bar came loose, then the second. I've spent 3 days watching you waste away while your own people treat you like a criminal for the crime of being loved. I won't stand for it anymore. Nira's throat tightened with emotion. If you take me with you, it means exile. I can never return to my homeworld. Marcus paused in his work to meet her gaze through the widening gap. Can you honestly say there's anything here worth returning to? The question cut deep because the answer was so clear. Her family had abandoned her. Her people scorned her. Her government imprisoned her for finding happiness. There was nothing left of her old life worth saving. Where will we go? She asked softly. Wherever we want. The galaxy is vast, full of worlds where scars are seen as stories instead of shame. Another bar came free. I've been offered a position. With the Colonial Settlement Board, first contact specialist for newly discovered planets, we could explore the unknown together. The opening was wide enough now for her to climb through. Marcus helped her squeeze through the gap, his strong hands guiding her safely down the monastery wall, using climbing equipment he'd somehow acquired. They moved through the shadows. Like lovers in an ancient tale, hearts pounding with the thrill of escape and the terror of capture. But as they neared the spaceport, shouts erupted behind them. The monastery guards had discovered her empty cell, Marcus commanded, grabbing her hand as searchlights blazed to life across the city. Sprinted through narrow alleys and crowded marketplaces, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. Nira's lungs burned and her legs trembled, years of sedentary isolation having weakened her physically, but Marcus's strength carried her forward. There, a guard's voice rang out. The human and the cursed one. Marcus pulled her into a shadowed alcove, pressing her against the wall as armed figures thundered past their hiding place. In the darkness, with her heart hammering against his chest, Nira realized this might be their last moment of safety. I'm sorry, she whispered against his throat. I'm sorry for bringing this danger into your life. Don't apologize for being worth fighting for, Marcus replied fiercely. His hands framed her face, thumbs stroking along her scars with infinite tenderness. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, Nira. Whatever comes next, I regret nothing. She rose on her toes to kiss him then, pouring all her love and gratitude and desperate hope into the contact. This kiss was different from their first, deeper, more urgent, flavored with the knowledge that they were choosing each other over safety, over comfort, over everything their old lives had offered. When they broke apart, both were breathless, ready. To start a new life among the stars? Marcus asked, offering his hand. Nira took it without hesitation, her fingers intertwining with his like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. Ready, she said, and meant it with every fiber of her. Being together, they stepped back into the night, racing toward a future that belonged entirely to them. Hearts triumphant, the escape ship Aurora's Dream lifted off from Zelthany Prime just as the sun crested the horizon, its hull gleaming like a promise against the dawn sky. In the passenger compartment, Nira pressed her palm against the viewport and watched her homeworld shrink to a violet among the stars. Any regrets? Marcus asked softly, settling beside her in the acceleration couch. Nira considered the question seriously. Below them was everything she had ever known, the crystal spires of the palace, the moonflower gardens where they'd first met, the people who had shaped her into someone afraid of her own worth. But beside her sat the man who had looked past every flaw her culture had magnified and seen instead a woman worth loving, worth fighting for, worth building a life with. None, she said firmly. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I belong. Marcus smiled, that same gentle expression that had first made her believe in possibility. The Colonial Board approved our partnership. We'll be heading to the Andromeda Frontier, 7 unexplored systems with potentially habitable worlds. Think you're ready to help make first contact with entirely new civilizations? With you, I'm ready for anything. Nira laughed, the sound bright and free in the ship's recycled air. Though I should warn you, I've never been particularly adventurous. You climbed out of a monastery window and fled across a hostile city. To escape with an alien diplomat, Marcus pointed out. I think you're more adventurous than you realize. The ship's captain, a gruff but kindly woman named Torres, appeared in their compartment doorway. We'll be jumping to hyperspace in 10 minutes. I wanted you to know we just received a transmission from Zelthani space. Nira tensed, expecting pursuit or demands for her return. Instead, Torres continued with a slight smile. Apparently, news of your escape has spread through the outer colonies. The message was from a group calling itself the Forgotten Daughters. Zelthani women who've been cast aside by their families for various reasons. They wanted you to know you've given them hope that exile doesn't mean the end of possibility. Tears sprang to Nira's eyes. In fleeing her prison, she'd somehow become a symbol of liberation for others trapped in similar circumstances. There's more, Torres added. Several human colonies have requested cultural exchange programs, specifically because they've heard about the woman brave enough to choose love over tradition. Seems you two are already making history. As the ship prepared for hyperspace jump, Marcus took Nira's scarred hand in both of his, raising it to his lips to press a kiss to each finger. The Zelthani called you broken, he said quietly, but you were never broken. You were just waiting for someone who could see that scars are proof of survival, that strength comes from enduring what seems impossible, that love sees beauty where others see only flaws. And Ra felt the last walls around her heart crumble. Completely, this strange, wonderful human had not only saved her from a half-life of solitude, but had taught her to see herself through eyes of compassion instead of condemnation. I love you, Marcus Kane, she whispered, not just for seeing my worth, but for teaching me to see it too. And I love you, Princess Nira, he replied, using her title with the respect that it always deserved. My brilliant, beautiful, perfectly imperfect partner in all adventures to come. The hyperspace jump engaged, stars stretching into lines of light outside their viewport. Behind them lay a world that had never appreciated the treasure it possessed. Ahead lay infinite possibility, uncharted territories where their love could grow without limitation or judgment. Nira rested her head against Marcus's shoulder, watching space fold around them as they hurtled toward their new beginning. For the first time in her life, she felt complete, not despite her scars, but because of everything they represented: survival, strength, a journey from brokenness to wholeness, made possible by the revolutionary act of being loved exactly. As she was in the vast darkness between stars, two hearts beat in perfect synchronization, proving that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when someone takes your hand and shows you that you were never broken at all, just waiting for the right moment to shine.